When federal contractors bid on standard, firm fixed-price solicitations, they expect straightforward requirements. But beneath the surface of these routine documents lie hidden, contradictory traps. Agencies frequently copy and paste legacy Federal Acquisition Regulation, or FAR, clauses into their new requests. This creates a dangerous lag between outdated legal language and modern cybersecurity mandates. Examine two recent solicitations from the Library of Congress. The first asks for third-party maintenance on aging IT infrastructure. The second is a design and fabrication contract for an immersive historical exhibit. On paper, both look like standard commercial procurements, yet they scored alarming ACT-IAC cyber complexity ratings of 85 and 65 out of 100. These scores come from the ACT-IAC Securing Federal Contracts Blueprint. The ACT-IAC Blueprint is an emerging evaluation framework used to expose supply chain and cyber risks embedded in federal solicitations. We are going to deconstruct these two requests for proposal to locate their missing security requirements and uncover their aggressive hidden subcontractor liabilities. Strategic bid success relies on locating the security gaps the agency overlooked. Protecting your profit margin requires defining the standards they failed to include. We begin with the IT support solicitation. The agency wants a contractor to provide 24/7 technical support and parts replacement for its out-of-warranty servers and network switches. Section H.7 of the document dictates that any contractor handling moderate or high security data must encrypt it using FIPS 140-3 validated modules. FIPS 140-3 is a U.S. government computer security standard used to approve cryptographic modules. The agency enforces this encryption rule using Clause LC 52.239-1. This is a severe error. That specific text is based on a FAR clause that was eliminated during the revolutionary FAR overhaul and replaced by FAR 52.204-21.
The strategy here is twofold. First, verify that the commercial hardware you are proposing strictly inherits FIPS 140-3 validation. Second, submit a formal question during the Q&A phase to challenge the agency's use of this deprecated clause. Beyond outdated encryption rules, this solicitation contains a massive gap regarding the software supply chain. The contract explicitly requires compliance with NIST SP 800-53 for handling controlled unclassified information, but it completely fails to require software supply chain attestations for the third-party firmware updates the contractor will be applying to the legacy hardware. The modern standard to fill this gap is a Software Bill of Materials, or SBOM, under NIST SP 800-218. An SBOM is a formally structured list of all software components, dependencies, and hierarchical relationships used in a piece of code. By offering a comprehensive SBOM dashboard alongside your maintenance services, you provide a premium value add. This differentiates your bid from competitors who only aim to meet the flawed baseline requirements. Leveraging modern frameworks like NIST SP 800-218 allows you to take an agency's compliance blind spots and turn them into highly defensible competitive advantages. Personnel security requirements introduce a layer of operational friction that directly impacts staffing feasibility. Section H.5 forces all commercial IT technicians working on this contract to enroll in the FBI's RAPBAC program. RAPBAC is a system that provides continuous, real-time vetting and criminal history updates on enrolled individuals. Uncleared commercial field engineers do not typically undergo continuous FBI monitoring. Forcing them through this pipeline will drastically shrink your available talent pool and severely throttle your onboarding timeline. You must price this administrative delay directly into your staffing plan and overhead calculations to avoid eating the cost later. The risk compounds when we look at incident reporting. The solicitation demands a strict 24-hour notification window for any cyber incidents involving controlled unclassified information, citing NIST SP 861. In Section I.2, FAR 52.204.21 for basic system safeguarding is entirely missing from the subcontractor flowdown checklist. Without this clause, you face immense ambiguity. If your subcontractor misses the rigid 24-hour reporting deadline, the legal exposure flows directly upward to you, the prime contractor. Submit a formal question during the solicitation phase to force the contracting officer to clarify this flowdown requirement and legally bound your exposure. Leaving unmanaged gaps in your subcontractor flowdowns transforms a predictable firm fixed-price contract into an infinite, unquantifiable financial liability. We move now to the second case study, a design and fabrication contract to build a traveling, immersive 1970s history exhibit for the library. The technical scope requires integrating historical archives with interactive audio-visual components, custom display casings, and bespoke firmware development. In Section H.5, the agency makes an aggressive intellectual property claim, stating they will own unlimited rights to all data and records produced under the contract. They attempt to enforce this using Clause LC52.04-27, which they label Handling of Federal Records. Under current FAR guidelines, Clause 52.04-27 is actually the ByteDance prohibition. The ByteDance prohibition is a federal regulation that bans the use of TikTok and other covered applications on government-related information technology. Because the library's custom clause lacks a specific U.S. code citation, it is classified as non-statutory. This makes the agency's data rights overreach highly vulnerable to being struck down under the strict sunset reviews mandated by Executive Order 14275. To block this overreach, you must formally assert restricted rights for all of your pre-existing intellectual property right in your proposal. The solicitation also contains a severe contradiction in how your proposal will be judged. Section L asks bidders to provide a subjective narrative detailing exactly how they manage support tickets. However, Section M dictates that the government will evaluate the bids on a strictly lowest price technically acceptable, or LPTA, basis. LPTA is an evaluation method where the contract is awarded to the lowest priced bid that meets the minimum technical requirements. In an LPTA environment, evaluators only care if you meet the baseline metric. Submitting extensive marketing material about your ticketing philosophy creates a high risk of receiving an arbitrary, technically unacceptable rating if your narrative doesn't match an evaluator's unstated preference. Keep your technical narrative ruthlessly concise. Explicitly map your ticketing management process directly to the contract's mandatory 4-hour response time and cut the subjective filler. Taking an agency's clause titles at face value or misunderstanding their evaluation rubrics will end up costing you your intellectual property and the contract itself. The ultimate defense against rigid, high-risk solicitations is commercial leverage, authorized under FAR 10.001F. This regulation mandates agencies incorporate commercial market research into acquisition planning. By law, this rule requires federal agencies to prefer standard commercial off-the-shelf or COTS solutions over bespoke hardware or legacy maintenance contracts. COTS refers to packaged software or hardware products that are ready-made and available for purchase by the general public. You can weaponize this in the IT support bid. Calculate the total cost of ownership to prove that proposing a modern, commercial hardware-as-a-service replacement is cheaper for the government than extending the life of dead, out-of-warranty servers. For the Cleveland exhibit, apply the exact same logic. Base your technical architecture around standard commercial audio-visual equipment and pre-built interactive media servers, rather than engaging in high-risk custom hardware fabrication. This is an optimization matrix mapping technical approaches. The y-axis measures your reliance on custom builds versus commercial off-the-shelf parts, and the x-axis plots legacy compliance against modern security standards. If you accept the agency's stated requirements without question, your bid remains trapped in the bottom left quadrant. It relies on fragile custom hardware and outdated legacy compliance, exposing you to maximum risk. By attaching an SBOM to your custom firmware, legally challenging deprecated clauses, and utilizing FAR 10.001F to swap in commercial hardware, you force the proposal into the optimized state. Audit the flow-down clauses relentlessly, and use the Q&A phase offensively to dismantle outdated IP traps before the proposal deadline. Elite proposal engineers dictate the modern technical standard using frameworks like ACT-IAC, transforming flawed solicitations into secured wins.